Have you ever said no to someone who could destroy your life with a single phone call? The frosted glass conference room at Incheon Airport gleamed cold under fluorescent lights. Zuri Kane, known across East African ports as the Black Rose, stood at the head of the table. She'd flown from Nairobi dressed as a corporate consultant, but international media knew the truth. Her organization controlled 3 coastlines. Senators and warlords had learned not to cross her. Park Min-jae, CEO of MJK Holdings, sat across from her looking utterly calm. "I don't launder money," he said, voice cutting through the silence, "and I don't work with the mafia." No one had ever refused her, not like this, not while looking her directly in the eyes. Zuri's fingers rested on the mahogany table, perfectly still, a signal of controlled power. She'd built her empire from abandoned docks and impossible negotiations. Men twice her age knelt when she entered rooms. But this young Korean CEO sat straight, meeting her gaze like an equal. "You understand what you're refusing?" Her voice stayed level. "I understand exactly what I'm refusing." Min-jae didn't blink. "You want to use my logistics network to move weapons through Korean ports. The answer is no." Around them, tension crystallized. Zuri's security team shifted near the door. Min-jae's assistant gripped her tablet so hard her knuckles went white. Why wasn't he afraid? She'd seen fear in 1,000 faces. Trembling lips, darting eyes, desperate smiles. Fear was predictable. But respect without fear, that was new. "Mr. Kim," Zuri leaned forward. "I came to Seoul because your network is the cleanest operation in East Asia. I'm offering a partnership that would triple your revenue. By helping people kill each other. By serving communities governments abandoned." Her voice hardened. "The ports I control feed families. My networks fund schools and clinics. Don't reduce this to simple morality." "I'm not reducing anything." Min-jae stood slowly. "I'm seeing it clearly. Good outcomes don't erase bad means." Something flickered in Zuri's chest, not anger, but something harder to name. This man saw through every careful construction. He wasn't playing the game. He was refusing to enter the arena. She straightened, adjusting her black blazer. "You're making a powerful enemy." "Perhaps, but I'll sleep tonight." Zuri turned toward the window, her reflection sharp against the night. She controlled shipping lanes across 3 continents. She'd survived bullets and betrayals. She'd made monsters blink first, but she'd never met someone who looked at her and saw a person worth challenging rather than a force worth fearing. Dangerous. This man was dangerous. Not because he opposed her, because he might remind her of the girl she'd buried, the one who believed in something beyond survival. "We'll speak again, Mr. Kim." As she walked toward the door, his voice followed her. "Ms. Kane, I hope when we do, it's about building something instead of breaking it." Her hand paused on the door handle, just a breath longer than necessary. Outside, rain began to fall on Seoul's glass towers. She didn't know it yet, but Park Min-jae had just become the most transformative person in her world. Not because he threatened her power, because he threatened to make her human again. 3 days later, Min-jae's entire operation stopped. His assistant burst into his office at MJK Holdings in Busan, tablet glowing red. "Sir, Customs is holding everything. Port Authority cites documentation irregularities. We've never had issues. It's her." Min-jae set down his coffee. Through his window, Busan Harbor stretched vast and gray. container ship sat motionless. One woman, thousands of miles of influence, proving her reach with surgical precision. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Good morning, Mr. Kim." Zuri's voice carried warmth like expensive whiskey and edges like broken glass. Experiencing delays? Minjai walked to the window, watching a crane freeze mid-lift. "You're demonstrating power. Does it change my answer?" Silence stretched across the line, then softer. "You intrigue me. Because I refused you? Because you looked at me like I was human. That's rare." Minjai pressed his palm against cool glass. "Everyone's human. Some just forget it." He heard her breath catch, barely audible. "The Shilla Hotel tomorrow night. 9th floor. Come alone." "Why would I?" "Because you're curious whether the woman who controls half of Africa's coastline might be more than her reputation." A pause. "Your shipments resume the moment you agree. No obligations beyond conversation." The line went dead. Minjai stared at his reflection. His father had built MJK Holdings loading trucks before dawn. His mother had sewn shipping labels by hand in their one-room apartment. Everything he had came from honest work. Now a woman who moved weapons wanted what? His approval? His understanding? That evening, a single black rose appeared on his desk. No note, just the flower, petals perfect and dark as midnight. He lifted it carefully, beautiful and lethal. He took it home, placing it in water on his kitchen counter. The rose sat there, refusing to wilt, just like the woman who'd sent it. Zuri stood on the hotel balcony, Soul's lights reflecting in untouched whiskey. Behind her, Tasha Knives Moyo cleaned her blade. Whetstone on steel, the familiar sound of their world. "You're distracted, Z." Tasha's eyes never left her work. "I'm strategizing." "About the Korean?" Tasha set down the blade. "He's civilian, clean record, clean money, doesn't belong in our world." "Maybe that's exactly why I need to understand him." Tasha moved to the balcony, studying Zuri's profile with sharpness that had kept them alive through 6 years of territorial wars. "Need him or want him? What's the difference?" "The difference is survival." Tasha's voice hardened. "We came for the shipment, to secure the port route before Dion Briggs makes his move, not to get philosophical with some CEO. He refuses to become part of the danger." Zuri finally sipped the whiskey, letting it burn. "There's courage in that." "Courage?" Tasha's laugh was sharp. "Or privilege? Easy to have principles when you've never had to choose between violence and watching everyone starve." The words landed hard because they were true. Zuri had grown up in Mogadishu during the worst years. Warlords collapsed government, streets where children learned to identify weapon calibers before learning to read. She'd held her first gun at 14, made her first kill at 16, protecting younger kids from militia recruiters. Every choice since had been survival mathematics. But Minjai had chosen differently, built differently. Before she could respond, her phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen and froze. "What?" Tasha's hand moved toward her weapon. "Nairobi. Dion Briggs is in Seoul." The name poisoned the air. Dion Briggs, rival faction leader who preferred burning territories to negotiating. If he was here, it meant war. "He knows about the shipment," Tasha said flatly. "Worse." Zuri's fingers whitened around her phone. "Someone in our network is feeding him information. He knows I'm meeting Minjai. Cancel it. It's a trap." Zuri looked at Soul's lights, millions of ordinary lives unfolding. Somewhere out there, Minjae was deciding whether to trust her. "Double security tomorrow," Zuri ordered. "Rooftop, elevators, lobby. And Tasha, put someone on Minjae's building if Dayon touches him." "We move first." Zuri nodded, but her chest tightened. She'd spent years building walls between herself and attachment. Caring made you vulnerable. Vulnerability got you killed. But this Korean CEO was slipping through cracks she didn't know existed. The rain started again. Seoul's neon colors bled together. Tomorrow, everything would change. What happens when the armor we build for protection becomes what isolates us most? If this story speaks to you, subscribe so you never miss these moments. The deepest truths are still ahead. Minjae arrived exactly on time, wearing the same simple dark blue suit. The Shilla Hotel lobby gleamed with marble and gold, but he moved through it like someone comfortable anywhere. Zuri watched from the 9th floor window. Even from this distance, she read his body language. No swagger, no fear, just steady forward motion. When he knocked, she counted to 3. Control was everything, then opened the door. "Mr. Kim, thank you for coming." "Ms. Kane." He entered, gaze sweeping the room once. Security assessment, not curiosity. They sat in leather chairs that cost more than most people earned in months. Zuri had negotiated deals in places like this 100 times. But Minjae wasn't looking at the room. He was looking at her. "I want to show you something." She pulled a folder from her briefcase. Photographs spilled across the glass table. Not weapons, not money, people. An elderly woman in Lagos, smiling outside a rebuilt medical clinic. 3 children in Mombasa at a new school. A harbor worker in Dakar, holding his first paycheck in months. A young mother in Nairobi whose son received cancer treatment at a facility Zuri's network funded. "This is what my organization does," Zuri said quietly. "When governments abandon port communities, when corporations extract without giving back, I fill the gaps. These people eat because of what I move. Their children study, receive medical care, have futures." Minjae studied the photographs. His fingers traced the edge of one photo. The children in their school uniforms, smiling like they owned the world. "You're asking me to weigh lives," he finally said, "and to decide if good outcomes justify dangerous means. I'm asking you to see reality. Governments fail these communities. Legal systems ignore them. I don't." Her voice cracked slightly. "Someone has to care. And the weapons you move, the violence your network enables, what about those lives?" "I don't pretend to be innocent." Zuri leaned back, exhaustion showing through her carefully maintained composure. "I've made terrible choices, done things that haunt me every single night. But in a world that offers only bad options, I chose the ones that saved the most people." She pulled out another photograph. This one she'd kept separate. A teenage girl, maybe 17, standing outside a vocational training center in Lagos. "This is Amara. Her father was killed in a territorial dispute 3 years ago. Not my territory, not my war, but the violence touched her anyway. She had no one, nowhere to go. The streets would have swallowed her, turned her into something she never wanted to be." Zuri's voice softened. "I found her, got her into this program. Now she's learning graphic design. She has dreams of starting her own business. She sends me messages sometimes, telling me about her progress, her hopes." She looked up at Minjae. "I can't bring her father back. I can't undo the violence that shaped her life, but I gave her a future. Is that redemption? Is it enough? I don't know, but it's something. Minjai picked up the photograph, studying Amara's smile, tentative but real. You're carrying an impossible weight, he said quietly, trying to balance scales that were broken long before you touched them. That takes a toll, doesn't it? Never knowing if the good you do outweighs the harm. Never getting to rest, because the moment you stop, people suffer. You do understand. Zuri's eyes widened slightly. She'd expected judgment, maybe pity, but not this. Genuine comprehension of the moral maze she navigated daily. I understand that you're trying to be a force for good in a system designed to crush people like Amara. I understand that you've made sacrifices most people can't imagine. Min Jae set the photo down carefully. What I don't understand is why you think you have to do it alone. Why you've built walls so high that you can't see there might be another way. Because every time I've trusted, I've been betrayed. Every time I've shown vulnerability, someone has used it against me. Not every time, Min Jae said gently. You showed me these photographs. You let me see past the armor, and I'm still here. Min Jae was quiet for a long moment. Then, your shipments are moving again, as of 2 hours ago. Zuri's eyes widened. You didn't have to. I know, but I wanted you to understand something. I may not agree with your methods, but I recognize the impossible position you're in. He leaned forward. That deserves acknowledgement. Something in Zuri's chest cracked open. Not agreement, understanding. Do you know how rare you are? She heard herself say. How exhausting it is to be surrounded by people who only agree because they're afraid. You challenge me. You see me clearly and still talk to me like I'm worth knowing. Human, Min Jae offered gently. Revolutionary. She smiled despite herself. Min Jae stood, walking to the window. My parents were North Korean refugees. They came south with nothing but my mother's wedding ring and my father's determination. They taught me that honor isn't grand gestures, it's small choices, repeated daily, even when no one's watching. Zuri joined him, their reflections merging on glass. I can't join your network, Min Jae continued. But I also can't pretend I don't see the complexity you're navigating. You're protecting people in a world that abandoned them. So where does that leave us? Min Jae turned to look at her fully. It leaves us as two people who see each other clearly, who respect each other despite our differences. That's worth preserving. Zuri felt vulnerability she hadn't experienced in years. Someone saw neither queen nor monster, but a woman making impossible choices. Thank you, she said softly, for treating me like a person. You're welcome. Min Jae moved toward the door, then paused. Ms. Kane, if you ever need someone who remembers your humanity when you forget it yourself, I'm in Seoul all month. Something warm bloomed in Zuri's chest. I'd like that. After he left, she stood alone, Seoul's light spreading below. For the first time in years, her loneliness felt temporary. Her phone buzzed. Tasha. Dion's men are moving tonight. The shipment's at risk. The armor snapped back, but underneath, a crack had formed. And through that crack, Min Jae's respect had planted something new. Hope that she might deserve more than darkness. She grabbed her coat. The war wasn't over, but winning might look different than she'd always thought. The warehouse sat in Seoul's industrial outskirts, tucked between shipping yards and abandoned buildings. Midnight, the air smelled of rust and rain. Zuri arrived with Tasha and 3 trusted soldiers. The cargo should have been here, moved from Incheon port 6 hours ago. Something's wrong, Tasha muttered, checking her weapon. Too quiet. Zuri scanned shadows, instincts screaming danger. Z, we should pull back. Too late. The warehouse lights blazed on, blinding. When Zuri's vision cleared, 15 men surrounded them, not strangers, her own soul crew. Leading them was Marcus Hayes, her East Asia second-in-command, a man she'd promoted from nothing, trusted with her life. Marcus, Zuri's voice stayed level, but her mind raced. Explain this. This is business, boss. Marcus stepped forward, smile cold. Or should I say former boss? Dion Briggs is offering triple your rates, better territories, real power. All we had to do was deliver you and the shipment. Tasha moved to draw her weapon, but guns already aimed from 3 directions. She froze. You're making a fatal mistake, Zuri said calmly. Walk away now. Marcus laughed, harsh, mocking. You've gone soft, distracted by some Korean CEO. The men noticed. The Black Rose is losing her thorns, they say, getting weak over romance. The word hit like a slap. They'd been watching, saw her vulnerability, interpreted mercy as weakness. You think kindness is weakness, Zuri said quietly. That's why you'll never build anything that lasts. I don't need it to last, Marcus signaled his men. I just need you gone. Gunfire erupted. Tasha yanked Zuri behind a metal container as bullets sparked off steel. The warehouse exploded into chaos. Shouting, running, percussion of weapons in enclosed space. Zuri's training kicked in. She'd survived worse, but this was family turning on family. Side exit. Tasha fired 3 shots, precise, controlled. Move! They ran through the warehouse maze, containers stacked like a deadly labyrinth. Behind them, Marcus's voice echoed. No one leaves. She dies tonight. Zuri clipped a corner. Her hand came away wet. Blood. A bullet had grazed her, not deep. Keep moving. They burst through a side door into rainy night. The industrial yard stretched before them. Cranes, shipping containers, muddy ground. The perimeter fence, Tasha gasped. An explosion rocked the ground. The warehouse erupted behind them, fire blooming against the night sky. Zuri felt heat wash over her back, pressure wave knocking her forward into mud. She hit hard, tasted copper and ash. Tasha pulled her up, but more men poured from shadows. They were surrounded. Boss! Fear cracked through Tasha's voice. There's too many. Zuri's mind worked through scenarios. Fight, overwhelmed. Run, no path, surrender, death. Is this how it ends? Then headlights, bright and sudden, cutting darkness like a blade. A vehicle crashed through the outer fence, metal screaming. The car skidded to a stop between Zuri and Marcus's advancing men. The driver's door opened. Park Min-jae stepped out. He wore no armor, carried no weapon, just a man in a business suit standing in a war zone, looking utterly calm. Ms. Kane, he called over the chaos. Get in the car, now. Zuri stared, mind unable to process. How did you? Questions later. Survival now. Please trust me. Marcus laughed, raising his weapon. The CEO came to play hero? Perfect. Daeon will pay extra for both of you. Min-jae pressed something on his phone. Instantly, the entire container yard erupted with light. Floodlights blazed from every corner. Min-jae's company controlled the port surveillance systems. He'd turned the yard into a spotlight stage. Marcus's men froze, suddenly exposed. In the distance, sirens wailed, multiple sirens, police, fire department, security. You have 30 seconds before authorities arrive, Min-jae said, voice steady. I've sent footage of this attack to 3 police departments and 2 news stations. You can disappear now, or you can explain to cameras why you're committing acts of violence. Your choice. Marcus snarled, but he was already backing away. A public shootout with police and media incoming. Even Dion's money wasn't worth that exposure. He and his men melted into shadows. Zuri and Tasha climbed into Min-jae's car. He drove fast but controlled, navigating back roads with precision. In the back seat, Zuri pressed a hand to her bleeding arm. Her heart hammered, not from fear of death, but from the impossible fact of rescue. "How did you know?" she finally asked. Min-jae's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. "You told me you had enemies in Seoul. I had my security team monitor shipping network chatter. When I heard about a setup in the industrial district involving your organization, I took a chance. You could have died. So could you." Tasha studied Min-jae with new eyes. "You're either insane or inspirational. Can't decide which." Min-jae's lips twitched. "Why not both?" Zuri leaned back, exhaustion hitting like a wave. This Korean CEO had just saved her life, not with violence, not with power, with intelligence and moral courage that made her weapons seem suddenly fragile. "Thank you," she whispered. In the mirror, Min-jae's expression softened. "You're welcome. Now let's get you somewhere safe." Rain drummed on the car roof as they drove deeper into Seoul's neon night. Behind them, smoke rose. Ahead, everything was uncertain. But for the first time in years, Zuri felt something dangerous and beautiful. Hope that she might not have to fight alone. Min-jae drove to a private clinic run by Dr. Jin, an elderly woman who'd helped his father years ago. Dr. Jin cleaned and dressed Zuri's wound while Min-jae waited outside, pacing. Tasha stood guard by the window. When Dr. Jin finished, Zuri emerged with her arm bandaged, exhaustion carved into every line of her face. "You shouldn't have come," Zuri said, sitting heavily on a worn couch in the clinic's back room. "Neither do you belong in that world." Min-jae pulled up a chair. "Not really, not anymore." "You don't understand. I know you showed me photographs of schools and clinics before asking for anything. I know you released my shipments without getting what you wanted. I know you're carrying weight that's breaking you." Zuri looked away. "In my world, asking for help gets you killed. You saw what happened. My own people betrayed me. Because they think I'm weak. Because of you." The words hung between them. Not accusation, just exhausted truth. "Because of me? You made me remember what it feels like to be seen as human. To have someone respect me without fearing me. That's not an asset. It's a liability. It makes me hesitate, question, feel." Her voice cracked. "I can't afford to feel. Is survival worth it if you're not really alive?" The question hit deeper than any bullet. Zuri's throat tightened. "I was 16, she said quietly. 16 when I first held a gun. Militia recruiters came to our refugee camp. They wanted the younger kids, easier to control. I stopped them, made my first kill doing it." Min-jae listened, his presence steady. "Every choice since has been about protection, building something strong enough that no one could touch the people under my care. And now," she laughed bitterly, "now I'm losing everything because I let myself care about someone who doesn't even belong in this world." "You're not losing everything," Min-jae said firmly. "You're evolving. That terrifies the people who benefited from your pain." The sound of her first name, not Ms. Kane, not boss, just Zuri, made something in her chest loosen. You make it sound simple. It's not, but staying in a world that's killing you, that's just slow death. Before she could respond, Tasha burst into the room, phone in hand, face grim. Catastrophic problem. Marcus just sent a message. He has the cargo and he's threatening to detonate it unless you surrender by dawn. Zuri stood despite the pain. Detonate? What are you talking about? Tasha's voice was flat. Dion Briggs planted explosives throughout the shipment. Enough to level 3 city blocks. Marcus is using it as leverage. Either you show up alone at the Gangnam warehouse complex, or he triggers it during morning rush hour. The room spun. This was beyond betrayal. This was mass murder. He's bluffing. Dion Briggs doesn't bluff. Tasha's jaw set. He wants you dead and your network destroyed. Killing hundreds of civilians would send exactly his message. Oppose him, and innocent people pay. Min Jae's face had gone pale. Where's the shipment? Gangnam District, warehouse complex near the subway hub and shopping center. Zuri did the math instantly. Morning rush started in 6 hours. Thousands of people, office workers, students, parents with children. If those explosives detonated. I'm going, she said flatly. I'll surrender. They'll let me disable the explosives. They'll kill you the moment you arrive. Tasha's voice hardened. This is a trap, see? I don't care. I won't let innocent people die for my war. I've made terrible choices, but I've never killed civilians. I won't start now. Then we fight. Tasha's hand moved to her weapon. I'll call everyone still loyal. There's no time, Zuri's voice broke. And who's still loyal? Marcus was my second in command. If he turned, who else? Silence fell like a shroud. The empire she'd built was collapsing. Her people had turned. And now innocent lives hung in the balance. Min Jae stood slowly. There's another option. Both women turned to him. My company's security system monitors every warehouse in that district. We have access codes, camera feeds, complete infrastructure schematics. If I can get close enough, I can remotely override their systems, lock them inside, disable their exits, give you time to disarm the explosives. That's suicide, Zuri said immediately. You're not trained for this. No. Min Jae's jaw set with determination. I'd be using my skills to save lives. That's what I do. That's who I am. Zuri stared at this remarkable man who should have walked away, who instead kept running toward danger because his compass pointed true. When did I fall in love with him? Not in the hotel suite, not during the rescue. Somewhere between all of it, in every moment he refused to look away, refused to reduce her to villain or victim. If we do this, she said slowly, voice steady despite her hammering heart, we do it together. You're not sacrificing yourself for my mistakes. Partners, or we don't do this at all. Partners. Min Jae held her gaze. I choose to stand with you, not because I have to, because I want to. For the first time in her adult life, Zuri Kane understood what it meant to have an equal, someone who saw her completely and chose to stay anyway. All right, she turned to Tasha. Here's what we do. Tasha, you'll create a distraction at the north entrance. Min Jae, you access their security hub, override their systems. I'll slip in through the maintenance tunnels and locate the explosives. And if Marcus triggers the detonator before you reach it, Tasha asked, then we all die trying to do the right thing. Zuri met Min Jae's eyes. better than living knowing we could have saved those people and chose not to. Min-jae nodded, agreed. As they planned through the night, Zuri felt something fundamental shift. She'd spent years believing strength meant standing alone, that vulnerability was weakness. But watching Min-jae sketch warehouse layouts with steady hands, listening to Tasha's tactical precision, feeling their combined focus on saving lives, this was a different kind of strength, the kind built on trust, on partnership, the kind that might actually last. Dawn was creeping closer, with it either redemption or destruction. Zuri looked at Min-jae and made a silent promise. If we survive this, I'm going to tell you what you mean to me. I'm going to be brave enough to be vulnerable. Outside, Seoul's night was fading. The city was waking. And somewhere in Gangnam, a bomb was waiting. The Gangnam warehouse complex loomed against the pre-dawn sky. 5 interconnected buildings, one containing enough explosives to create a crater where a neighborhood should be. Zuri, Min-jae, and Tasha approached from 3 directions. The plan required perfect timing and absolute trust. Min-jae's voice crackled through the earpiece Zuri wore. I'm at the security hub. Give me 90 seconds. Zuri crouched in the maintenance tunnel, water dripping in darkness. The metal smelled of oil and rust. See, I'm in position. Tasha's voice was tight. North entrance, say when. Wait for Min-jae's signal. 60 seconds, 70, 80. I'm in, Min-jae said, voice steady. Cameras show 15 hostiles, north quadrant of Building A. They're guarding a shipping container. Marcus is right next to it, phone in hand. The detonator. He was ready to trigger it. Can you lock down their exits? Zuri asked. Already done. North and east doors are sealed. South exit is the only way out. And I've got it covered. They're trapped, but they don't know it yet. Zuri felt a surge of admiration. This man had learned her world's rules in hours and was playing them expertly. Tasha, make noise. I'm going in. The distraction was perfect. Tasha set off fire alarms in Building D, creating panic. While Marcus's men scrambled to respond, Zuri slipped through the tunnels into Building A. The container sat in the center of the warehouse floor, doors open. Inside, she could see the cargo, wooden crates marked with innocuous labels. And wired through everything, enough explosives to vaporize the building. Marcus stood nearby, phone in hand, finger hovering over the trigger app. His face showed fear and determination, a man who'd burned all his bridges. Right on time, Z. His smile was bitter. I knew you'd come, always the martyr. Zuri stepped into the light, hands visible. Let me disarm it, Marcus, then you can disappear. I'll tell Dion you did your job. You can walk away alive. Walk away? Marcus laughed. To what? You think Dion lets people walk away? I'm dead either way, but at least this way, I take you with me. Prove I'm not weak. Mercy isn't weakness. Zuri took another step forward. You taught me that once, remember? After Lagos, when you talked me out of revenge, that would have started a war. Something flickered in Marcus's eyes. Memory of who he used to be. That was before you went soft. He spat the words. Before you forgot what we are. No, Zuri's voice softened. That's when I remembered what we could be. We built this network to protect people, Marcus. When did we become the thing they need protection from? When the world left us no choice, Marcus's hand trembled. You think I want this? But Dion said, Dion is using you. Min-jae's voice echoed through the warehouse speakers, calm and authoritative. He's using you to eliminate Zuri, and then he'll eliminate you. You're a tool to him, but to her? You were family. Marcus's head snapped up. Where are you? Everywhere. Min-jae's voice seemed omnipresent. I control every system in this building, and I've sent footage of this situation to the authorities. They're 3 minutes out. You have a choice, Marcus. Die here as a criminal, or surrender and live. Some choice. But Marcus's finger moved away from the trigger, just slightly. Zuri saw her opening. Marcus, please, let me help you. We can get you out before police arrive, set you up somewhere new. For one fragile moment, Marcus wavered. His face showed the war inside, loyalty versus survival, pride versus fear. Then one of his soldiers, younger, harder, stepped forward. Boss is going soft, just like she did. He raised his weapon toward Zuri. Everything happened in seconds. Marcus turned toward his own man, shouting, "No!" The soldier fired. Min-jae's car crashed through the south entrance, headlights blazing, engine roaring. He aimed straight for the shooter, forcing the man to dive aside. The distraction was enough. Zuri lunged forward, tackling Marcus. His phone flew from his hand, skittering across concrete. She scrambled for it, fingers closing around the device, just as Marcus grabbed her injured arm. Pain exploded. She gasped but held on. The phone screen showed the detonator app, still active, timer visible, 45 seconds. The code, Tasha's voice in her ear. What's the disarm code? Zuri's mind raced. Marcus would have set something personal. She thought of their years together, the betrayals, his daughter. He always used his daughter's birthday. Her fingers flew, 0814. The timer froze at 19 seconds, then went dark. Silence fell except for ragged breathing, but they weren't done. Marcus's men opened fire. The warehouse erupted into chaos. Min-jae drove his car in a tight circle, using it as a moving shield. Get behind the containers, use the high ground. Zuri's tactical mind kicked in. The warehouse was filled with shipping containers stacked 3 high. Cover, elevation, strategic positions. Tasha, flank them from the east catwalk. On it, Zuri and Min-jae worked in perfect synchronization. She directed movements using combat tactics. He manipulated the warehouse systems, turning loading equipment into obstacles. A crane swung into position, blocking shooters. Lights cut out in sections, creating darkness for Zuri to move through. Emergency exits sealed, funneling Marcus's men into positions where Tasha waited. They weren't fighting with superior numbers. They were fighting with intelligence, coordination, and the fundamental difference between people fighting for money and people fighting for something that mattered. One by one, Marcus's men fell, not dead, but disarmed, trapped, surrendered. They'd signed on for an easy job. They hadn't expected 3 people who trusted each other completely. Finally, only Marcus remained. He stood in the center, surrounded, bleeding from a graze wound, phone gone, weapon empty. It's over, Zuri said quietly, stepping into the light. Surrender, Marcus, for your daughter, if nothing else. Don't make her grow up knowing her father died as a terrorist. Marcus's face crumpled. The bravado, the anger, it all collapsed. He sank to his knees, hands raised. I'm sorry, Z, he whispered. I thought I was making the right choice, for my family. Dayon said he'd pay for her education, her future, said she'd never have to live the way we did. I just wanted her to have more. We all want that for the people we love. Zuri approached slowly, kicking his weapon away. But this wasn't the way, Marcus. You know that. Deep down, you've always known. Tears tracked through the dirt on Marcus's face. I was afraid I'd end up like my father, dead in an alley, forgotten, leaving nothing behind. I wanted to matter, to build something that would last. You mattered to me, Zuri said, and her voice broke slightly. You were family. You still could have been, but you chose Dion's money over trust. You chose fear over faith. And now your daughter will grow up visiting you in prison instead of learning from you at home. Marcus's shoulders shook. Can you forgive me? Zuri was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, maybe someday. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. You almost killed hundreds of innocent people tonight. You betrayed everyone who trusted you. That's not something I can just wave away, Marcus. That's something you'll have to carry. Police sirens wailed outside, close now, seconds away. Go, Marcus said. They'll arrest me, but you still have a chance. Run. Zuri shook her head. No more running. I'm done with that life. Min-jae appeared at her side, his presence steady. The authorities are here. I've prepared statements. We prevented an attack, provided evidence against Dion Briggs's network, and helped capture the perpetrators. You're on the right side of this, Zuri. She looked at him, this remarkable man who'd turned her world inside out. Because of you. Because of us, he corrected gently. When police flooded in, Min-jae stepped forward with the confidence of a CEO used to handling crises. He explained the situation with perfect clarity, the attempted bombing, Zuri's heroic intervention, the international criminal network they'd helped expose. It wasn't the complete truth, but it was true enough. As the sun broke over Seoul's skyline, golden light spilling through the warehouse windows, Zuri stood beside Min-jae and felt something she hadn't experienced in years. The weight lifting, the constant tension of looking over her shoulder, of trusting no one. It's finished, she whispered. No. Min-jae took her hand gently. It's just beginning. Outside, the city was waking. Thousands of people who would never know how close they'd come to disaster, who would go about their ordinary, beautiful lives because 3 people had chosen to act. Mourning didn't feel like a preparation for war anymore. It felt like a promise. 3 months later, Busan Harbor at sunset. The port stretched vast and beautiful, container ships moving like slow dancers across water. The air smelled of salt and new beginnings. Zuri stood at the harbor's edge, wearing simple jeans and a white blouse. No armor, no designer power suits, no weapons hidden beneath expensive fabric. Just herself. Min-jae approached from behind, 2 cups of tea in hand. He'd learned she took hers with honey and a touch of ginger. How does it feel? He asked, offering her the cup. Zuri considered the question, wrapping her hands around the warm ceramic. Terrifying, liberating, like learning to walk after years of only running. The past 3 months had been a controlled dismantling of her empire. With Tasha's help, she'd transferred all legitimate operations, the schools in Lagos, clinics in Mombasa, port worker programs in Dakar, into proper nonprofits with transparent funding. The weapons trafficking, the smuggling, the shadow networks, she'd dismantled them piece by piece, turning evidence over to international authorities in exchange for immunity. She'd testified against Dion Briggs in 3 countries. Dion was awaiting trial. Marcus had taken a plea deal, 10 years, but he'd see his daughter grow up. and Zuri Kane, once known as the Black Rose of the port routes, was slowly becoming just Zuri. "My board wants to meet you," Minjay said casually. "They're impressed with the port security consultations you've been doing. They think there might be a permanent position, Director of International Logistics Security. It's legitimate, well-paid, and uses everything you know, just for protection instead of exploitation." Zuri looked at him. "You told them about my background?" "I told them you have unparalleled knowledge of international shipping, supply chain vulnerabilities, and criminal network operations." He smiled. "Which is true. The rest is your story to share or not. Your decision." She sipped her tea, warmth spreading through her chest. "You keep doing that." "What?" "Giving me choice, agency, making space for me to become someone new." Minjay turned to face her fully. Sunset painted gold across his features. "I see both who you were and who you're becoming. You can't erase your past, but you get to choose what you build forward. That's the gift of being human. We can evolve." Behind them, Tasha appeared, walking along the harbor with a young woman, one of the former street kids from Seoul. The girl was laughing, her face bright and open. "She starts university next week," Zuri said softly. "Business degree. She wants to help other kids build something better." "You made that possible." "We made it possible." Zuri turned to Minjay, her heart hammering with words she needed to say. "I couldn't have done any of this without you. The legal framework, the negotiations, the protection while I testified." "Partners," Minjay said gently. "That's what we are." The word settled between them, full of weight and promise. Zuri had spent so long equating love with weakness, romance with vulnerability, that would get her killed. But standing here, watching the sun set over water, she no longer needed to control. She understood something fundamental had shifted. Love wasn't surrender, it was expansion. "I need to tell you something," she said, voice steady, despite the hammering of her heart. "And I need you to let me finish." Minjay nodded, giving her his full attention. "When you walked into that warehouse, I thought you were insane. When you stood up to Marcus without a weapon, I thought you were going to die. When you helped me dismantle everything I'd built, I thought you were either the bravest person I'd ever met or the most foolish." She paused, gathering courage. "I was wrong. You weren't any of those things. You were just someone who saw me, really saw me, every broken piece and bad choice, and decided I was worth believing in when I'd stopped believing in myself." Her voice dropped. "I love you, Park Min-jae, not because you saved my life, because you helped me remember I had a life worth saving, because you showed me that strength doesn't mean being alone. It means having the courage to be with someone, to be vulnerable." Silence stretched between them. A seagull cried overhead. Waves lapped against the dock. Then Minjay smiled, the kind of smile that started slow and spread like sunrise. "I love you too," he said simply. "I think I have since that first meeting when you threatened me, and I realized I'd never met anyone who carried so much weight, but never let it crush the part of her that wanted to protect others." Zuri laughed, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in years. Real laughter, light and genuine. "I want to build something with you, Zuri," Minjay continued. "Not an empire, not a network, just a life, something honest and equal and ours." "Can someone like me have something like that?" The vulnerability in her voice surprised her. "Can someone who's done the things I've done, deserve that kind of peace? Someone like you deserves exactly that. His forehead touched hers. We'll figure it out together. When they kissed, it was soft and certain, a promise sealed not with words but with presence. No rush, no desperation, just two people choosing each other with full knowledge of who they were and who they wanted to become. The kiss tasted like hope. Tasha wolf whistled from down the dock. Finally, I've been waiting 3 months for you two to stop being noble and start being human. They broke apart, laughing. Zuri waved at Tasha with mock annoyance. Come on, Minjae said, taking Zuri's hand. His fingers laced through hers. There's someone I want you to meet. He led her down the dock to where an elderly couple stood near a small restaurant. They had Minjae's eyes, his gentle smile, the same quiet strength. His parents. Zuri froze, panic fluttering. Minjae, I can't. They know you're someone important to me. His grip tightened reassuringly. That's all that matters. My mother insisted on meeting the woman who, in her words, taught her son to fight for what he believes in. Minjae's mother approached first, her face kind and knowing. She looked Zuri up and down, not judging, just seeing. Then she smiled and spoke in English, her accent warm. This is the woman who put light back in my son's eyes after so long in darkness. You are welcome at our table, welcome in our family. Tears burned in Zuri's eyes, hot and unexpected. She bowed deeply. Thank you for raising a man of such honor. He saved my life in every way a person can be saved. Minjae's father stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Honor is easy when things are easy, but you both chose it when it was hard, when it cost you everything. That's what matters. That's what makes you family. Family! The word wrapped around Zuri's heart. She'd had crews, soldiers, networks, but family? That was something she'd lost so long ago. They walked together into the restaurant, a small warm place that smelled of home cooking and acceptance. As they sat down to eat, Minjae's mother serving traditional dishes with pride, his father telling stories that made everyone laugh, Zuri felt something she'd never experienced. Belonging not earned through power or fear, but through being seen and chosen anyway. This was what peace looked like. Later, as they walked back along the harbor under emerging stars, Minjae pulled out a small velvet box. It's not what you think, he said quickly. Or maybe it is, but not yet. We need more time first, to be sure, to build foundations. Inside was a simple silver bracelet, elegant and strong. Engraved on the inside, chosen, not conquered. Zuri's breath caught. Minjae, I want you to have something that reminds you every day. You're not someone's weapon or property or threat. You're a person who gets to choose her own path. And I hope you'll keep choosing to walk it with me. Today, tomorrow, for as long as we both want this. She let him fasten the bracelet around her wrist. It caught the street light, gleaming soft and steady, a promise worn openly. I choose you, she said firmly. Every day, every moment, I choose this, choose us. They stood at the harbor's edge, the city lights of Busan sparkling behind them like promises waiting to be kept. Somewhere in the distance, a ship's horn sounded, not a warning, but a call to voyage. Zuri Kane had spent her life believing she had to be untouchable to survive, that caring made you weak. But standing here with Minjae's hand in hers, his parents' acceptance, warming her from the inside, Tasha's loyalty evolved into friendship. She realized the truth. Real survival meant letting someone see every scar, every fear, every broken piece, and building something new from the honest foundation of who you actually were. The story the world told about her would always include shadows. Articles would be written. Her name would appear in case files. The past couldn't be erased. But the story she was writing now, that one was filled with light. And it was just beginning. Thank you for staying until the very end. If this story touched something in your heart, reminded you that it's never too late to choose differently, to be seen fully, to build something real from broken pieces, please subscribe to our channel and share this with someone who needs to hear it. We tell these stories because everyone deserves to believe in second chances, earned love, and the courage to evolve. More inspirational romance awaits you here, where we celebrate dignity, redemption, and the transformative power of choosing love over power. Until next time, choose bravely. Choose love. Choose life. 6 months later. The community center stood in what used to be one of Seoul's forgotten neighborhoods. Now it hummed with life. After-school programs, job training workshops, evening language classes, weekend cultural events that brought together people from a dozen different countries. Zuri ran the place with the same strategic precision she'd once used for her network. But this time, every decision built something. Every choice added light. Min-jae arrived at lunch with takeout from their favorite restaurant, the one his parents owned, where they'd shared that first meal as a couple, where his mother had declared Zuri family before Zuri had dared to believe it. They ate together in her small office, surrounded by children's artwork and success stories pinned to the walls, like evidence that redemption was possible. The mayor wants to expand the model to 3 more districts, Min-jae said between bites. She's very impressed, Zuri smiled. Tell her yes, but we do it right. No cutting corners, no rushing. These communities deserve the best. Spoken like a true CEO. Min-jae's eyes sparkled. Spoken like someone who learned from the best. She reached across the desk to squeeze his hand, the silver bracelet catching light. Thank you for everything. For believing this was possible when I couldn't see past my own darkness. We built it together. He lifted her hand, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. Just like we'll keep doing. That evening, they walked home through streets Zuri once controlled through fear. Now people waved. Children called her name with genuine affection. A grandmother gave her homemade food with a smile. It wasn't the power she'd once craved, the kind that made people kneel. It was something infinitely more valuable. Community earned through service, respect earned through presence, love earned through showing up every day as her full, imperfect, healing self. At home, the apartment they now shared, filled with books and laughter and the ordinary magic of building a life together, Min-jae pulled her close. Happy, he murmured against her hair. Zuri thought about it. Happiness wasn't the absence of struggle. She still woke sometimes from nightmares. She still carried the weight of who she'd been. But happiness was the presence of purpose, connection, growth. It was having someone who held you through the nightmares and reminded you that you were more than your worst moments. Yeah, she said, meaning it with every fiber of her being. I'm happy. For the first time in my life, I'm genuinely happy. Outside, Seoul sparkled with evening lights. Inside, 2 people who'd found each other across impossible divides settled into the beautiful, motivational work of building a life worth living. Together, equal, chosen. And somewhere in the distance, the future waited, uncertain and magnificent, and entirely their own. A future built not on fear and power, but on trust and partnership, and the radical belief that even the most broken people deserve a second chance at love. A future that whispered softly, "You are not your past, you are your next choice. Choose well, choose love, choose life." And that's exactly what they did.